Make of us a house for all people. Make of us a house for all people. Gather us in hope for all people. In hope for all people. Surround us in peace for all people. In peace for all people. In wholeness and in love. Make of us a house. Make of us a house for all people. Gather us in hope for all people. Surround us in peace for all people. In wholeness and in love. Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha. Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha. Tasim Le'olam. Ki atahu melech. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol shalom. Ki atahu melech. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol shalom. Lechol shalom. Make of us a house. Make of us a house for all people. Gather us in hope for all people. Surround us in peace for all people. In wholeness and in love. Make of us a house for all people. Gather us in hope for all people. Surround us in peace for all people. In wholeness and in love.
Shalom Aleichem. Peace to each and every one of you who have come to join us on this Shabbat here at the beach in what has become our congregation's holy space, another one of our congregation's holy spaces. I'm Rabbi Michael Friedman, so pleased to be joined by Rabbi Zach Pleasant, Cantor Julia Kadrain, Rabbi Ilana Nematov-Bressler, Malin and Mike, and our crew and our staff. We especially want to introduce on this evening someone who's brand new to our community, Sarah Moody. Please stand up. Our new Director of Experiential Education has moved here from the West Coast, settled into our community and our congregation just in the last couple of weeks. You'll have a chance to get to know her this evening a little bit more just in a few more minutes. As I look around this beautiful congregation, I see a number of people who I have not seen in a long time. Hello, 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 hello. It's great to have you here. And I see a number of people who are new to our community, new to our congregation. If you're new, just raise your hand so we can all see and we can all greet you. And I want to say, we all want to say to all of you, welcome. And we want you to know that you've always belonged right here.
Amen.
So we're so glad to have you. The last thing I'll say is by word of introduction this evening is often when I officiate at outdoor events and the weather's nice, people say, "Thank you so much for putting in a good word for us." And I say, "You're welcome." And when the weather's bad, I say, "I had nothing to do with it." So, God willing, we will be blessed with good weather throughout the next hour or so. If it does begin to rain hard or rain at all, you should do whatever you feel like you need to do to be safe. If necessary, we may just conclude the service early. And if so, anyone who's here to say Kaddish will invite you to meet us in the pavilion about 10 or 15 minutes later, and we can say Kaddish together and perform that wonderful time-honored mitzvah together if you choose. Most importantly, we're going to try to stay safe. All of you try to stay safe as well. God, please bless us. That's all I'll say. As always, we begin by bringing more and more light into our world. You have our Shabbat on the Beach prayer book. The candle blessing is on page 120, which is really the first page.
There's a saying in the rabbinate that every rabbi has like 10 sermons or 5 sermons, and he just says them over and over and over again. I said something similar a couple weeks ago, but I really liked it, so I'm going to say it again, and I think it is just as relevant and just as important. We're about to begin our Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat, where we welcome Shabbat, we receive Shabbat, and the mystics of Sfat would run out into the fields and greet Shabbat with all of their passion. And we, Cantor and your rabbis and I, have encouraged you that this is the moment to sing out, to be a part of this community in song. And so while we're here at the beach and there's a little bit of wind, if you are not someone who's comfortable singing, now is exactly your time to do so, because nobody will hear you anyway.
It's your time
so
to shine.
This is the time for you to feel that special thing that we often feel when we just let loose and sing out as we welcome Shabbat together. Page 131.
Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. Shiru Ladonai, kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai, Shir Chadash. Shiru Ladonai. Page 136. Mizmor shir le'yom haShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, tov lehodot l'Adonai, tov lehodot l'Adonai, lezamer l'shimcha Tov This has been a night of reunions already because, well, first of all, personally, I haven't seen my daughters all week. My wife and I have been away, and I got to reunite with them on the beach. And Rabbi Friedman mentioned this earlier. We are reuniting with so many. It is so good to see your faces. The way that we feel to see you and to see one another is exactly the way that we feel when we greet Shabbat. That is what Lecha Dodi is all about, that love and excitement that we feel when we reunite. We welcome Shabbat together. We will sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. When we come to the last verse, we will stand up and welcome Shabbat via the ocean.
Page 138 and 139.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Kabbalat
remain standing and turn to page 146 for Baruch.
Please be seated. We turn to page 148, which confusingly is on the next page over. We read together in English. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night, and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzivaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim.
Page 152. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam lehot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tizkeru ba'asitem et kol mitzvotai V'item kedoshim le'elohechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem Elohim. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Adonai Elohechem, Emet. We now invite up Sarah Moody, our new Director of Experiential Education, and she'll introduce us to Mi Chamocha this evening.
I wanted to share with you a little bit about this week's Torah portion because there is a mystery in it, at least to me. Now, I recently embarked on a long road trip, long enough to bring me from one side of the country to the other. And on that way, we stopped in cities and in towns. And if you asked me today about this road trip I took a month and a half ago, I couldn't tell you where we left from and where we were going each day of our trip. The details have faded away. You know, it's easy these days. You just plug it into the GPS and you start to go. And everywhere where you're going, it just sort of fades to the black. Well, in this week's Torah portion, we find out that this did not happen with the Israelites' journey. In fact, the Israelites' journey from Egypt to the Promised Land is recorded in painstaking detail. Every one of their 42 points of departure is clearly recorded in the Torah. And the rabbis, mystified by this recounting of their trip, know why. And I, a good student of Torah, also want to know why. So I asked the rabbis. And Maimonides tells us, well, of course it's recorded in the Torah are 42 points of departure, because it reminds us that each place we stopped, it was miraculous that we lived to go to the next place, because we were truly in the wilderness, in the middle of nowhere, and we depended upon God's miracles to give us food to get to the next part of our journey. And Rashi asks, why 42 points of departure? And Rashi answers, it must be because at each point of our journey, God showed us incredible kindness. We didn't wander for 40 years straight. Now you might hear, 40 years wandering in the desert. We were wandering, right? We actually didn't wander for 40 years straight. We wandered a lot at the beginning and quite a bit at the end. But in the middle, those intervening 38 years, we were relatively stationary. And Rashi says it's God's kindness that's recorded in these 42 points of departure. God's kindness to us in not making us continue to wander throughout the desert. I didn't buy either of those answers, I have to tell you. They didn't speak to me. But I did a little bit more research, and Rabbi Shai Held, a modern Torah commentator, asks the same question, and he answers it this way. Each of the 42 departure points is recorded to tell us that no point was inconsequential, no matter how unimportant it may have seemed at the time. And what does that tell us? As I drove from Los Angeles to Connecticut, I wasn't particularly inspired by Beaver, Utah, but it was a necessary stopping point from there, really, I should say, from there to here. I had to leave from somewhere each day to get to where I was going. So tonight, as we get ready to pray the words of Mi Chamocha, I want us to have a little more compassion for the selves that do the leaving. Just hold for a moment what it must have felt like to be leaving before you plug into your GPS the destination, before you plug into your GPS the next place you're going.
Page 158. Hashkivenu, we ask for God's protection on page 161. Number 2 in the middle of the page.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, ve'ha'amideinu shomreinu l'chaim, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. We sing shelter us beneath your wings, O Adonai. Guard us from harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. We sing Amen. Hashkivenu Adonai. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, ve'ha'amideinu shomreinu
Friends, being out here is not like praying in our sanctuary, which has its own beauty and pleasures. Being out here means that we're breathing the fresh air and that we're feeling the sand between our toes and the breeze on our faces. And it also means that we can get up and move around in a different way. And so it's become our tradition, our custom here at Temple Israel, or Shabbat on the Beach, that we'll begin the Amidah just by sharing the first few words together. Adonai Sfatai Tiftach. God, open up our lips so that we can find the right words to say what we need to express on this evening. And then we'll have some quiet time. And during that time of quiet prayer or contemplation or meditation, we invite you to move around, to find a different spot. Find the right spot where you can share what your heart needs to express on this beautiful Shabbat evening. So we invite you to rise. We'll sing Adonai Sfatai together. We'll have some moments of quiet solitude where you can find your own spot, even dip your toes in the water. And then when you hear us singing, we invite you to come back together. We invite you to find your own space.
that okay? We'll sing a little Niggun. I was just basically going to translate it.
You know you guys match. You know your nail
We're going to talk about how we don't stop at fear. We want to move past that point. And if you want to say more,
love the outfit.
say it.
Rocky.
Okay, let's do a little.
Well, do you
we're
have
gonna go back to
something?
Adonai Swatai, the one we just did. Yeah.
Her hair sparkle. It holds on to her.
You may be seated. Friends, I want to thank Sarah for such a beautiful drash on our Parsha a few moments ago. It prompted me to think, I hope it prompted each of us to think about which of the 42 metaphorical points in life we may be departing from as we sit here. What transition is going on for you? Where do you want to go? And how do you want to get there?
Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav said, Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tsar me'od. The whole entire world is a very, very, very narrow bridge. Ve'haikar lo lefachad klal. The most important thing is not to be afraid. We add this idea that yes, we're afraid, there is much to fear, but we don't stop at fear. We move through the fear to the other side. The most important thing is on the other side. The most important thing is on the other side. The most important thing is on the other side of fear. Oh, other side. The most important thing is on the other side. The most important thing is on the other side of faith. Kol ha'olam kulo, kol ha'olam kulo, geshet tzar
Kol ha'olam kulo gesher tsar me'od. The whole world is a very narrow bridge. Ha'ikar, but the important thing, lo lefached klal, is not to be afraid. Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav, as Cantor just said, was a charismatic teacher and rabbi in Eastern Europe more than 200 years ago. And these words he wrote, it's probably his most famous teaching. It might be the most famous teaching of all the Hasidic masters. It's an especially important Jewish teaching for us, right here and right now. I think about the world that Rabbi Nachman must have lived in. Disease went unchecked. Many children died. Hunger was always just around the corner, not to mention anti-Semitism. And I don't mean the online comments that we have to face. I mean actual people with knives and guns, which sometimes we have to face too. And I think about our lives. Here we are, 200 years later, still using the same teaching that he brought to us. There's plenty to fear. As I speak to people, speak to all of you, people tell me about their sense of economic vulnerability as inflation rises and the stock market falls. They speak to me about their concern about the health of our planet as we endure record heat and violent storms. I hear about concern about this inexorable wave of gun violence, the reversal of Roe v. Wade, a growing and creeping political pessimism with an election right around the corner. There's a sense of fragility. There's even a sense of despair. A bridge is no place to dwell. Nobody lives on a bridge. You take a bridge to cross from one place to another, a place we're at now to a place we might want to go. A bridge by definition is narrow and high. And if you look over the side, it could be a little scary. But you cross it in a short time. What happens when the whole world seems to be dwelling, when our entire existence seems to be in the midst of that narrow bridge? We all get anxious. There's no one who doesn't get anxious from time to time. But will we allow our fear, our anxiety, to dominate our lives? Just this week, Rabbi Pleasant shared with me a teaching that he learned from his mentor, Rabbi Billy Dreskin, who learned it from a friend of mine, Rabbi Scott Wiener. And there's probably a chain of tradition that goes much farther back than that. I learned through all of them that the quote that we've shared that was part of the song is the quote that most of us know within the Jewish world. Kol haolam kulo gesher tsar me'od v'ha'ikar lo lefached klal. The most important thing is not to be afraid. But I learned this week what Rabbi Nachman actually wrote is a little bit different. He didn't write, the key is not to be afraid, lo lefached klal. He wrote, lo lehitpached klal. Lehitpached, it's a different form of the verb to be afraid in Hebrew. It's the reflexive verb. In other words, the key is not to make yourself afraid. In other words, I would translate it as, don't let yourself be consumed by fear. Anxiety and even fear are manageable when we acknowledge that they are out there, but the place where I am is okay. I'm on this bridge. It may be narrow, but it is stable, and I continue to move forward upon it. Friends, at this time, these days, I hope and I pray that we will refuse to allow ourselves to be consumed by fear. We may not be able to avoid it altogether. None of us can. But we can keep it in its rightful place. We can be inspired by this beautiful community, by children playing in the sand, by the good fortune that we've stayed dry this evening, and by a million other small miracles that support this very narrow bridge upon which we stand. May we move forward from this place to wherever we may happen to be going with strength. May we move forward together. Ken Yehi Ratzon. May it be so.
Ken Yehi Ratzon.
We especially need strength. We especially need not to be afraid when we are ill or injured or in pain. Thank you. Or when we're caring for someone who's really in a difficult spot. And so we'll offer a Misha Berach, a prayer for healing, for strength, for comfort, for these members of our community. In fact, I'll invite you to, at this time, share names of those you might offer a prayer of healing for. If you'd like to stand up, if you have a name to share, we invite you to stand up and say it nice and loud, because even in the wind, we want to be able to hear you. Alyssa? As a congregation, in addition to those whose names have been said aloud, we pray for the healing and the well-being of Yisrael Avraham ben Chia Rachel, Marta Adamus, James Bruni, Frida Easton, Steve Elliott, Jackie Fuchs, Roy Fuchs, Lanny Gans, Skylar Grossberg, Jeff Helfand, David Hidalgo, Peter Hort, Penny Kestley, Ann Beth Katz, Natalie Kellner, Phyllis Kamansky, Don Matthews, Tammy Melman, Barbara Nash, Ruth Ocean, Alton Parody, Francine Plaza, Carol Randell, Dorothy Reynolds, Robbie Regano, Deborah Lynn Ross, Sandy Schenker, Michael Selikoff, Cantor Richard Silverman, Kathy Soroka, Eric Stiskin, Esther Stone, Karen Sugarman, Sandy Troy, Joan Wetzler, Yocheved Sarah Bat Etel, Rivka Bat Chaya V'Mordechai, Baruch Atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim.
like the different departure points that Sarah talked about and the bridge that Rabbi Friedman talked about, all of them come to an end. And that transition is often the hardest for us to weather. And we hold on and must let go eventually. And when those we love die, we also transition, not just them. And we also cross a bridge that we never want to cross, and join a club we never wanted to join, one without our loved one. Each time we recite Kaddish, we remember that bridge, we remember where we are, but we also build a new bridge of connection and community, because we say Kaddish in community to remember together, so we're not holding that memory and that pain alone. So tonight, as we recite Kaddish, I invite those of you remembering someone this evening to rise so that we may hear your loved one's name heard aloud. Remember those who have died within the last month. Edward Abali, husband of Paula, father of Dan and Jamie, Eric and Paige, Clement and Alexis, grandfather of Maxim, Olivia, Madison, Blake, Cade, and Neve. Arlene Rosenthal, wife of Jeff, mother of Stacy, Jamie, Johnny, Mary Ellen, Abby, Andy, Karina, Bobby, and Allison, grandmother of Brantley, Brooke, Zelly, Maury, and Romy. Sam Richter, father of Jennifer and Robert Bernstein. Barbara Goldstein, mother of Susan and Richard Raphael and Marcia and David Rosen, grandmother of Justin, Maxine, Adam, Christina, Daniel, Jordana, Joshua, and Jennifer. And Edward Hennick, cousin of Mike and Sarah Schlechter. And we remember those whose Yahrezites occur. Edith Brynan, Wayne P. Diamond, Beatrice Gover, Jonathan Greenwald, Norman Hurt, Stanley Hollander, Leslie Katz, Gladys Kay, Joseph Kramer, Ned Levy, Edith Megida, Gershon Navone, Eva Harris Nevis, Sally Orant, Emily Jordan Rudder, Joyce Schuster, Meyer Snyder, Carolyn Zuckerman Knipe. We hold all of them in our hearts as we join in one community in Mourner's Kaddish on page 586. 598. I invite you to rise. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayachon uvyomechon uvchaye d'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agola v'zman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam Olmei Olmaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal Shemei D'Kudashah Brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, Da'amiram be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah min Shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Osei shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, as together we say, Amen.
glorious it's been to be out here this evening. You're welcome. In a moment, we're going to invite everyone who is under the age of bar or bat mitzvah to join us up here for Kaddish and Motzi. In fact, all of our little ones can start. Oh my gosh, I just felt a raindrop. That's ridiculous. Okay, that's amazing. That is amazing. Okay, miracles happen. Come on over here. And we want to invite all young families who are here to join us Sunday morning at Sherwood Island, at the pavilion at Sherwood Island. We're going to have a wonderful young family beach morning event co-sponsored by FJP, Federation for Jewish Philanthropy. Many of you who are members of our congregation saw our email this week about our interfaith trip to Israel next May. We hope that some of you are considering, we know that some of you are considering joining us, joining myself and Reverend Wilson and other congregants on that trip. If you have any questions, please come and talk to me. Everyone's welcome to grab some pizza and juice or other beverages that are in the back in a moment, right after Motzi. If you're a member of Temple Israel and you're near someone who you don't yet recognize or you don't know, we hope that you will extend a hand after Kiddush and Motzi, introduce yourself, greet them. It might be a longtime member of our congregation who you just haven't met. It might be someone who's brand new to Westport or brand new to Temple Israel. So we hope that you will extend a hand and greet one another after the conclusion of our service. All of our Kesher students who are here can give your names to Rabbi Enby and you'll get credit toward your pizza party or ice cream party at the end of our Kesher year. Okay. Are we good? Anything else we need to know? Join us back here at the beach, August 12th and 26th. We look forward to seeing you and at TI in the intervening Shabbatot. We have Kiddush on page 123.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit. Ki hu yom techila lemikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim ki vanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim ve'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat lechaim. And we'll bless that challah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon. Make of us a house for all people, gather us, hope for all people, surround us in peace for all people, in holiness and in love. Make of us a house for all people, gather us in hope for all people. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.